The lesson is about the Champaran Satyagraha of 1917. Gandhiji met an emaciated peasant called Rajkumar Shukla, who persuaded him to visit his district Champaran, situated in the foothills of the towering Himalayas near the kingdom of Nepal. When Gandhi visited the district, he saw the disparity prevailing between the landlords, British landlords, and the poor and fear-stricken sharecroppers. He understood that the agrarian conditions in Champaran was not good at all. The poor sharecroppers were compelled to grow 3/20 part of the land with indigo crop, and therefore Gandhiji started his fight against this injustice. He started to hold discussions with the authorities. The authorities feared that there might be a public arrest and ordered Gandhiji to leave Champaran. But as Gandhiji didn't comply with the order, he was summoned for a trial. But on the day of the trial, many number of people came out and showed their support towards Gandhiji by showing spontaneous demonstration in front of the courthouse where Gandhiji's trial was being held. And Gandhiji, when he appeared in the court, he told about the conflict of duties. So let us proceed from that part. Several days later, Gandhi received a written communication from the magistrate informing him that a lieutenant governor of the province had ordered the case to be dropped. Civil disobedience had triumphed the first time in modern India. So when Gandhiji arrived in Champaran, the authorities thought that there might be a public unrest, and therefore they issued an official order to Gandhiji to leave Champaran. But Gandhiji didn't comply with the order, and therefore he was summoned for trial in the court of Motihari. But on the day of the trial, the peasants, when they heard that Gandhiji was in trouble with the authorities, they came out in huge numbers. They demonstrated in thousands of numbers, and in that way they baffled the officials, and the officials, they felt so helpless in front of these peasants that they decided to postpone the trial. But Gandhiji was completely opposed to the postponing of the trial, and therefore the judge, without providing any judgment, he had to release Gandhiji without bail. And several days later, when Gandhiji was awaiting the judgment of the trial, Gandhiji received an official letter which said that all the charges against him was dropped, and Gandhiji was not found guilty, and the case against him had been dropped. Now at that point of time, Gandhiji exclaimed with joy that civil disobedience had triumphed for the first time in modern India. So in that way, Gandhiji, he practiced civil disobedience for the first time in the soil of Champaran, and he was successful. Now it shows, or it gives us a very important lesson, that although disobedience is regarded as a very is not regarded as a desirable behavior of a civil society, yet it is sometimes justifiable if it is used for a noble cause, or it is used to protect the rights of the weak and the oppressed. Now Gandhiji, even he indulged in disobedience, but why? Because he had to fight against the unjust rules which were laid down by the British on the oppressed and weak peasants of Champaran. And although he indulged in civil disobedience, he was successful, and therefore he said that civil disobedience triumphed for the first time in modern. So let us now start the next part of the story. Gandhi and the lawyers now proceeded to conduct a far-flung inquiry into the grievances of the farmers. Deposition by about 10,000 peasants were written down, and notes made on other evidence. Documents were collected. The whole area throve with the activity of the investigators and the vehement protests of the landlords. In June, Gandhi was summoned to Sir Edward Gate, the lieutenant governor. Before he went, he met leading associates and again laid down detailed plans for civil disobedience if he should not return. Gandhi had 4 protracted interviews with the lieutenant governor, who as a result appointed an official commission of inquiry into the indigo sharecropper situation. The commission consisted of landlords, government officials, and Gandhi as the sole representative of the peasants. Now, when the case was dropped against Gandhiji and he was allowed to reside in Champaran, Gandhiji started a far-flung inquiry into the sharecroppers' cases. He visited the villages of Champaran with the help of his co-workers, and he interacted with the sharecroppers to record their statements and testimonies. Testimonies are official statements, and that way he was able to collect the records. He was able to collect the statements and testimonies of about 10,000 peasants. Now, due to the continuous efforts made by Gandhi, the lieutenant governor of the district, Sir Edward Gate, he summoned Gandhiji, and he had four interviews with Gandhiji, and after discussions with Gandhiji, decided to appoint a committee of inquiry to examine and report on the agrarian conditions which were going on in Champaran, to see whether injustice was done to the sharecroppers by the British planters or not. So in that way, an inquiry commission was set up, and Gandhiji was appointed as the sole member, was the sole Indian member representing the peasants. The others were all Britishers, and Gandhiji was the only Indian who was representing the peasants in this inquiry. So let us proceed. Gandhi remained in Champaran for an initial uninterrupted period of 7 months, and then again for several shorter visits. The visit, undertaken casually on the entreaty of an unlettered peasant in the expectation that it would last a few days, occupied almost a year of Gandhi's life. The official inquiry assembled a crushing mountain of evidence against the big planters, and when they saw this, they agreed in principle to make refunds to the peasants. But how much must we pay? They asked Gandhi. They thought he would demand repayment in full of the money which they had illegally and deceitfully extorted from the sharecroppers. He asked only 50%. There he seemed adamant, writes Reverend J. Hodges, a British missionary in Champaran, who observed the entire episode at close range. Thinking probably that he would not give way, the representative of the planters offered to refund the extent of 25%, and to his amazement, Mr. Gandhi took him at his word, thus breaking the deadlock. This settlement was adopted unanimously by the commission. Gandhi explained that the amount of the refund was less important than the fact that the landlords had been obliged to surrender part of the money and with it part of their prestige. Therefore, as far as the peasants were concerned, the planters had believed as lords above law. So, an official inquiry was set up by Sir Edward Gate, the lieutenant governor, after having discussions with Gandhiji, and Gandhiji was appointed as the sole representative of the peasants. And this inquiry, it actually got a crushing amount of evidences against the big planters. It was found out that money was illegally extorted out of the peasants by the big planters because they wanted to sort out the problem of losses which were incurred by them due to the development of synthetic indigo by Germany. So in order to make up the losses, they were extorting money out of the peasants, and these wrongdoing was found by the inquiry commission, and therefore now the landlords, they were ready to pay the compensation to the peasants. And Gandhi, they thought that Gandhiji would ask for a full repayment, but Gandhiji asked for a 50% refund. And here Gandhiji was completely adamant, because some of the people who were watching the entire episode and entire discussions of the inquiry commission, they noticed that Gandhiji was adamant when he asked for a 50% refund, and the planters thought that he would not change his opinion, and therefore they agreed to pay only 25%. But interestingly, Gandhiji agreed even to that, because for Gandhiji the money was not important, the amount of refund was not important. For him, the fact that the landlords had surrendered the part of the money, and along with it they were surrendering the part of their prestige, their self-esteem was lost, they were compelled to repay the compensation or make the refund to the farmers. So this shows that how the landlords were compelled to surrender a part of their prestige, and that is more important for our Mahatma Gandhi. And moreover, the landlords till that particular moment always thought that they were above law. They could mold the law according to their whims and fancies. But for the first time, they understood that they were not above law. And the farmers also understood that they could fight for their own rights. They had their rights and they had defenders to fight for their rights. They understood that, so they were completely free from their fear-stricken status. Now, the peasants saw that he had rights and defenders. He learned courage. Events justified Gandhi's position. Within a few years, the British planters abandoned their states, which reverted to the peasants. Indigo sharecropping disappeared. Gandhi never contented himself with large political or economic solutions. He saw the cultural and social backwardness in the Champaran villages and wanted to do something about it immediately. He appealed for teachers Mahadev Desai and Narhari Parikh, two young men who had just joined Gandhi as disciples, and their wives volunteered for the work. Several more came from Bombay, Pune, and other distant parts of the land. Devdas, Gandhi's youngest son, arrived from the ashram, and so did Mrs. Gandhi. Primary schools were opened in 6 villages. Kasturba taught the ashram rules on personal cleanliness and community sanitation. Now, Gandhiji, he agreed to the 25% refund because, in his opinion, he wanted to make the people of Champaran learn courage. He wanted to make them free from their fear or their caste status. So when the 25 refund was made, he was successful. He was satisfied because the farmers, they learned that they had rights, they had defenders. They also learned courage for the first time, and that was more important for Gandhi. And actually, the events which took place after this inquiry commission justified Gandhi's position, because the forceful indigo farming or the coercive indigo farming which was enforced upon the sharecroppers of Champaran, it ceased to exist. It completely abolished in Champaran, and within a few years the British planters also abandoned their states. They left for their lands, and the lands, it returned back to the peasants. So these events justified Gandhi's opinion or his position. And then Gandhiji, although he came to Champaran to fight against the exploitation, the British exploitation of indigo farmers, yet he soon realized that his work was not only to fight for their rights, but also to work for their upliftment, because he understood that illiteracy of the people was one of the most important reasons for their submissiveness and their fear-stricken nature. So Gandhiji started to work on the education of the people, and within a few months volunteers from across the country joined him. Some of the volunteers included Mahadev Desai, Narhari Parikh, their wives. Then Gandhiji's son Devdas, he also arrived, and in that way primary education started. Some primary schools were opened in 6 villages of Champaran. And as Gandhiji considered good hygiene and sanitation to be important for physical well-being and a healthy environment, so he asked his wife Kasturba Gandhi to teach the people of Champaran about the ashram rules on personal hygiene, on community sanitation, because these things are very important. So only if you work for the social upliftment of the Champaran villages, then his work will be completed in Champaran. His intention, first of all, his intention was only to fight for the rights of the sharecroppers, but later he understood that his work didn't end there. He had to work for their social upliftment, moral upliftment. So in that way Gandhiji decided to work on the education of the people.